Lynette Cruz, Jean Ballesteros, Cheryl Williams, Oscar King Jr.
Francis Fernando is reading out the names of his fallen colleagues. At least 25 NHS and healthcare workers, around 1 in 5 of those who've died of COVID-19 have been Filipino.
It touched my heart really, because they are my colleagues who came here to the UK to better their lives, and now that they have died, we have to remember them.
Those who have lost their lives caring for others have been described as heroes. But perhaps they didn't have to be. Perhaps their deaths could have been avoided. Deaths that have overwhelmingly and disproportionately hit BME staff. As an officer of the Filipino Nurses UK Association, Francis has been hearing concerns from frontline workers for weeks now.
Do people actively get in touch with you and tell you that they don't have adequate PPE?
Yes, they do. Mostly Filipinos, and not only through me, but through my colleagues in the association, and they all say the same thing. So if you don't ask for this proper standard PPEs, you won't get them. And sometimes you're at the back of the queue for some reason.
In terms of PPE allocation, could you just explain or describe some of the stories that you've heard?
So 3 of my colleagues contacted my colleague who were working for a central NHS trust, who used some bin bags to cover themselves because they were not provided with adequate PPEs, and they have contracted COVID-19 unfortunately, but they're on well to recovery. So this is not an isolated case. It happens throughout the NHS and throughout the UK, unfortunately.
It's been hard to find Filipino healthcare workers who'll go on the record about their experience, but one frontline worker agreed to talk to us anonymously. She's pregnant and worried that the work that she's been asked to do puts her and her baby in danger.
It does worry me a lot at night when I get home, because if a patient is like asymptomatic and then she suddenly coughs, you don't know if it's why she's coughing. Maybe it's because of her disease, or she's just having an allergy, or she already has COVID. I haven't said I don't want to work in the ward because we Filipinos don't really complain. When I was on my way to work the other day, I feel like I just want to cry because we have to work. It's hard. Sorry. You want to think that they have support, but there's really no support from them.
Well, that was clearly a very emotional interview. She was sobbing at times. She was obviously very upset. But I think what came across most was just how powerless she feels to actually raise her concerns compared to perhaps other members of staff who were born and brought up here.
I think Filipino healthcare workers are being taken advantage of by their managers and by their employers. They are afraid that if they say something, even if they wanted to, with any with our support, they're not able to because they're afraid that they'll be reprimanded and their visas won't be renewed.
Do you worry about your work permit situation?
Yeah, it's really hard for us to say no. So if your manager told you that you're happy to do this, you wouldn't say no, even though deep inside you it's not something you want to do.
The Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists say that it should be pregnant healthcare workers' choice to work in patient-facing roles. Yesterday, the government announced that BME healthcare workers would now be risk assessed, but the man who helped draft up the current equality guidance in the NHS believes that's too late.
The real tragedy of this is that healthcare staff and social care staff have died unnecessarily who did not need to die. If the guidance that's now coming out today had been put out when it should have been 6 weeks ago, I don't think there's any doubt that a large numbers of people who've died might not have died. The way in which the discrimination in the NHS happens, including, I think, some of the discrimination that's currently happening, is sometimes it's intentional, much of the time it's not intentional. It's the cumulative effect of a whole range of small decisions which really constitute institutional discrimination.
Albert Rico.
Stop.
BME healthcare workers on the front line have taken the brunt of this virus. There's a real question now as to whether the government did enough to protect them.
To know Kenneth Lambatan was to love him. That's how his many friends and colleagues will remember him. But a voice that brought joy to so many has fallen silent. The 33-year-old Filipino nurse died from the virus he was trying to protect others from. His family, thousands of miles away, speak of a son and brother who made them proud.
As a nurse, it is his sworn duty to serve the people regardless of any circumstance. He sacrificed his life. The term hero is really befitting for him.
But Kenneth and his family weren't shown the same compassion by a disease that is merciless.
Based on COVID protocols, he is going to be cremated. So technically, he will be back into our hands as ashes. It's heartbreaking that we can't even hold his hand.
The only comfort for his family is that he didn't die alone in hospital. Via, his best friend and fellow nurse, was by his bedside, holding his hand, wearing full protective equipment.
It's only me that he has in the end, and I have, I can hug him, I can kiss his hand, I can touch his hand, because I got gloves. I was still holding his hand, and he just flatlined, and he was gone like that.
Making Kenneth yet another Filipino health worker to have died in the UK from COVID-19.
If you go to any NHS hospital, you would see a lot of us. More of us are going to get it, there might be more of us who might die from it.
Kenneth's death will leave a huge hole in the lives he enriched. Sejal Karia, ITV News.